All right, guys, we are live. It's Friday. Karine Jean-Pierre today. I would hate to be Admiral Kirby today. Joe Biden did not have a good day last night. We got that full quote-unquote press conference. His first press conference in years. Lasted all of 12 minutes. 8 minutes of it is just him talking. Lots of questions are coming up about Biden's mental and physical fitness. Apparently the man is incapable of answering simple questions. Apparently, the potato is a vegetable. I always thought potatoes were tubers. Apparently they're vegetables. We got our president, he's on dope.
They always on that dope. Why they on the dope?
They're all a bunch of dopes.
Why they on that dope? Here we go. Here we are living in 2023. Everybody out there always trying.
They're trying to be on that dope.
Why they always on dope? I guess they can't.
What's up, JP? Felix?
Reality the way that it is.
Got a great show for you guys.
Believe that women have lots of kids. We on E, brother. E. We're not on C, we're on E. The way that it be. There you go. On that E, brother. Let it flow. Let the sound of E go out so everyone knows that we on dope. We on that dope. We on the dope. I don't know why they can't cope.
I don't know why they can't cope without the dope.
Every day they're out there always going broke for
They're going broke for that dope.
They're going broke for the dope. That's why I know that none of them can cope with reality.
I feel bad for them. I especially feel bad for John Kirby and Karine, because they're going to just be... I don't think the media is going to go easy on them, right? Because the Democrats want to get rid of Biden because they know that he can't beat Trump, right? You stand up Joe Biden next to Donald Trump, right? It's not even a contest. All you gotta do is ask him, Joe, what year did your son die? Oh, I won't even dignify that with a response. Yeah, because you can't remember. Yeah, just like that's why we all know there will be no debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden will do everything he can to weasel out of the debate.
I know they can.
The media is not going to defend him like they did the last time.
They can't fucking cope.
They can't fucking cope.
Without that dough. They want all that pretty. They want white. They want hard. They want soft. They want anything that they can put in their arm. or their nose, or their pipe, or their bottle.
Bet the farm on Joe, the rig is in. I hope not, Remains. I don't know if we can take it.
Or in the gas tank, stay on that dope.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not betting the farm on any. I wouldn't bet the farm on Joe Biden. I don't care. I don't fucking care. Nothing you will do will ever get me to back Joe Biden. I would rather lose my money on Donald Trump than bet on Joe Biden, I'll tell you that. What's going on, guys? You got me, Space McG, your favorite cartoon nerd with the news, and I'm back at it again. Doing the thing I do. Y'all know what we do up in here? We're doing the thing that we do when we do it, which is now. And that thing is sticking our finger in the chest of the establishment and poking around a bit, seeing what falls out. Normally it's just a lot of bullshit that falls out, but hey, we'll see how it goes today. Now what's going on? We got a nice little crowd starting to form out here. We got Felix the Cat. 2 streams again. Uh-oh, that's the problem. Oh. God damn it, why does it do that? I don't know why it does that. Hold on. Let me go and manage that real quick. So if you're watching on the other stream, yeah. That's probably why there's no one here. I don't know why I did that. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, guys. Yeah. So, now I'm a little bit befuddled. What were we talking about? Joe Biden. Indeed. Now, let's see here. So what are they saying about old Joey B? Let's have a look-see-D. All right, let's move on over. Okay, so we are anxiously awaiting the shit show of a press conference that we're about to experience. I feel bad for John Kirby and Karine today. They're just going to get hammered. And what are they supposed to do, right? What are they supposed to do? They're between a rock and a hard place, right? Because if Joe Biden, right, is mentally fit to be president, then he's guilty of treason for all of the state secrets that he let slip and all of the classified documents that he stole from the skiff, right? If Joe Biden is mentally fit to be president, then he's guilty of treason, right? But if he's not guilty of treason, then it's because he's not mentally fit to be president. You guys see how that works? You guys see how that works? We got JP Jr., we got Remains up in here. What's going on, guys? Yeah, so that's how that works. So I don't know how long it's going to take them to come out and talk today. I imagine they got a lot of error correction to do right now with their messaging, right? Because, you know, they don't care what the truth is. It's all about how they spin the lie. That's more important to them than telling the truth, right? And during the speech, right, where Joe Biden was supposed to come out here and knock our socks off and show us how mentally fit he is, he confuses the presidents of Mexico and Egypt after defending his fine memory, right? President Biden drew immediate online reaction after once again confusing the names of foreign political leaders. This time while trying to emphasize his mental fitness. Yeah, nothing shows us how mentally fit the president is like him not being able to remember the names of the people that he's talking about, right? The president gave a brief address to the nation from the White House Thursday night, where he took a barrage of questions from reporters regarding concerns over his age and memory stemming from the special counsel report. Okay. Has been stealing top secret classified documents. What the hell? Hold on. There we go. No. What's going on? Something's wrong. I think I broke space. Hold up. There we go. Yeah, all right. Yeah, Joe Biden has been stealing classified top secret documents from the secure location, the SCIF, since he was a 29-year-old senator, right? And after being found with, yesterday, I'm sorry, I have a correction. It wasn't thousands of boxes of documents. It was hundreds of boxes of documents containing thousands of top secret papers, right? My bad. It was hundreds of boxes with thousands of papers across multiple locations, right? At his home in Delaware, in Wilmington, at his home in Rehoboth Beach, at his office at Penn State University, right? And they're probably not telling us everywhere where they found the documents, right? So, yeah. So, apparently, this fucking thing was a complete disaster. Now, they promised us a press conference yesterday, or on Tuesday, my bad, and they tricked me. They didn't announce that there was just going to be a press conference at 8 p.m. I didn't know that until it was already over, right? So now we have to watch this now. So let's hear Biden's take on all of this. And apparently this is very cringe and very hard to watch, right? Because as we saw yesterday, Joe Biden is so fucking off kilter that he wants to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land. All right, let's hear it.
Let me say a few things before I take your questions.
Let me say a few things, and he's going to go on to talk, I imagine, for most of this. And I don't know, I haven't watched it. I have not watched it, right? So, what I do know is that Biden woefully stole documents over his entire career, over 40 years, and should be, given the electric chair for all of the top secret information that he has passed along to God knows who over the last 40 years.
As you know, the special counsel released his findings today about their look into my handling of classified
Hey, what's
documents.
up, Chino, baby?
I was pleased to see he reached a firm conclusion that no charges should be brought against me.
Yeah, no charges should be brought against me. Not because I'm innocent, because I'm incompetent and feeble. Can you believe that he's going to come out here and brag about being too feeble to stand trial? It's amazing.
In this case, this was an exhaustive investigation going back more than 40 years.
Yes, and the prosecutor, the special prosecutor, concluded that you are guilty of treason, but he's not going to prosecute you because he feels bad because you're a simple old man who can't remember dates and times and names and where you are.
Even in the 1970s, when I was still a new United States Senator. The special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks.
He cooperated completely, as in
fact, I was so determined. I can't remember
any of these answers. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the answer is because I can't remember. When was I vice president? When was I a senator? When? Who am I? Where am I? Will you change my diaper?
To give the special counsel what he needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over 2 days on October the 8th and 9th of
What's up,
last
speak
year,
no evil?
even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th and I was very occupied. It was in the middle of handling an international crisis. I was especially pleased to see Special Counsel make clear the stark distinction and difference between this case and Mr. Trump's case.
Yeah, the stark difference between this case and Mr. Trump's case. The main difference being, as president, Donald Trump has the sole authority to declassify documents at his whim, right? He needs no clearance. He needs no permission, right? And there's a reason that he can do that. That is so, in case he's in like a nuclear standoff with China, and he has to disclose like troop locations or top secret information, information on missile locations, or any other reason when he's negotiating with world powers. He has to be able to be like, okay, this is now declassified, so I can share this with these people, right? That is the purview of the president.
Special Counsel wrote, and I quote,
Joe Biden was not president when he stole documents back in the 70s, right? Joe Biden is guilty of treason and should be immediately impeached. And, I mean, he should not be president right now. He should not be the president.
Several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are clear. Continuing to quote, most notably, after given multiple chances to return classified documents to avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast, we went on to say Mr. Biden turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the Department of Justice.
But the main difference, though, is that Trump had the authority to possess those documents. It wasn't like they were like, oh, Trump, you illegally took those documents. No. I mean, kind of. But it's more like after a president is finished his term, it's the law, actually, that he has to turn over all the documents accrued during his presidency. He doesn't get to keep any of those things, right? That's the law, right? But Donald Trump didn't steal those documents out of a secure location, and they aren't still classified, right? That's the difference, right?
Consented to the search of multiple locations, including his home, sat for a voluntary interview, and in other ways cooperated with the investigation, end of quote. I've seen the headlines since the report was released about my willful retention of documents. These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong. On page 215, if you had a chance, I know it's a thick document. On page 215, the report of the special counsel found the exact opposite.
That's another difference. You're absolutely right, Gino. Donald Trump had his documents locked up behind like 3 locked doors, right? And guarded by the Secret Service. Joe Biden had disheveled boxes in his garage to the point where they appear in videos of Joe Biden driving his Corvette.
Here's what he wrote. There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence that I willfully On page 12, the special counsel also wrote, for another document, the decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents.
No, that's the opposite of what it says. It says that Biden knowingly and willfully stole documents from a secure location over 40 years and on innumerable instances.
The evidence says I did not willfully retain these documents.
Bullshit!
In addition,
Bullshit.
I know there's
That's
some
a lie.
attention paid to
That's
some
a
language in the
goddamn
report
lie.
about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died.
Yeah, because you keep saying it was in Iraq when it was in a Wilmington hospital 5 years after he was decommissioned as an officer.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of...
Look at him fake like he has emotions. Look at him act like he's not exploiting the death of his son to garner sympathy when he's guilty of treason.
Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people.
Yeah, because he died in Iraq. You fucking feeble old piece of shit. And that's the thing, is he's not lying. He's so fucking ate up that that's what he believes. Right?
We'll love him.
It's sad. I'm not making fun of his condition. I'm making fun of the fact that the guy in this condition is the president. I feel bad for the man.
I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away.
Oh, wow. He's getting a little angry. Look at that. Look at that grimace. Look at that. This is when I call this Clint Eastwood Biden, right? He really reminds me of Clint Eastwood when he acts like this.
I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away.
Like, hey, can't you see Clint Eastwood doing that same exact line, the same exact way?
Simple truth is, I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events, going back 40 years.
He couldn't remember the name of the
same time.
No, I think he was trying to express that thinking about it hurts him so bad that he can't even continue the sentence on the church thing. But maybe he's just trying to cover up the fact that he can't remember it. But I think that was the intended line.
Time I was managing international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case. That's their decision to make. That's the council's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed.
Joe Biden, indeed.
To continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
Okay, here we go. Now we're going to get to some questions. We only have he takes 8 minutes of questions. For the first time he's answered questions, honestly, since Afghanistan. Guys. Remember, that was a 2-hour press interview. This is going to be 8 minutes of press interview.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president.
Fact check false. You do not know what you're doing. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know where you are, and you don't know what day it is.
This country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak.
Yeah, he's still got some zingers left, though. They probably wrote that joke for him already.
Your memory has gotten worse.
No, look.
Now listen, now the rest of the press is jumping in. Right? They're not having it. No one's having it. It's going to be brutal today inside that press briefing room. I'm surprised they came out at all. You know, I got to give it up. This is one of the few times where you're going to hear me compliment Biden's press secretary. But she's got a lot of balls coming out today. What? I don't know what's about to happen. I haven't watched this. But I assume they're about to dig into him with I'm assuming it's about to be a Julius Caesar moment here, and they're all going to stab him to death.
My memory is not good. My memory is fine.
His memory's fine, guys.
My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president.
Yeah, okay, what have you done, Mr. President?
None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed.
What did you get passed?
You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Yeah, we know that. You can't even mention one thing that you've done because it's not written down in your notes right there.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to dissuade them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Only by some of you, the honest ones. The rest of you are all fucking CIA plants and fucking DNC fucking operatives, and you guys will write favorably about me no matter what is the truth.
Mr. President,
for criminal liability today. Do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
Joe Biden has never taken responsibility for anything in his life.
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that
it's all his staff's fault, guys. It wasn't him willfully stealing documents over 40. Wow. Way to own the situation, Mr. President. Wow, we're so impressed with your honesty and your forthrightness.
appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me but my staff.
It was his staff. Yeah. They moved the boxes of stolen documents that you stole over your 40-some-odd year career. It wasn't their fault, Mr. President, that your documents were stolen from the skiff. Only you could steal the documents from the skiff, Mr. President. Look at that. That's his, oh God, I just shit myself face. Look at it. Look at it. He just shit himself. Look at that face. That's the face of a man that just shit himself. Look at it. That man just shit himself. Shit himself lying. That's a man that just shit himself lying. Look at that face. You can see it. He just shit himself. Just like it wasn't Hunter's Coke. Hey, what's up, Ronnie Braun? We got a new visitor, guys. You get a wrench. Welcome, Ronnie. I feel like I've actually seen your name before, but I might be confused. I might be having a Joe Biden moment. All right, let's go, Mr. President.
Mr.
President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me." Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment.
Oh, he's mad now. Oh, please. So, which one is it? Are you too old and feeble to stand trial? Or are you guilty of treason? Which one is it, Mr. President?
That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
They express concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old. Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? What is your answer to that question?
Because I'm the most qualified person in this country to be President of the United States.
My ass. You're the most corrupt person that's ever been in that office. And that includes Herbert Hoover.
It's the job I started.
That includes Richard Nixon. That includes George W. Bush. You are worse than George Bush. I never thought I would say that in my life.
President, why are you refusing the names of world leaders?
I did not share classified information.
My ass! The report absolutely says that you shared classified information.
I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter.
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
Why did he delete all of the recordings after he was done? If there was no top secret thing shared with him, why did you force him to delete all the recordings once all of this stuff started bubbling up?
Well, no, he did not say that. He did not say that. Well, let me answer your question. The fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had written a long memorandum to President Obama why we should not be in Afghanistan. And
was it a top secret document? I believe it was.
I was of this multiple pages. And so what I was referring to, I said classified. I should have said should be private because it was a contact between the president and the vice president as to what was going on. That was not classified.
Yeah, what, telling them about the reasons why America can't fight a war is not classified? If that's not classified, why do we even have classification?
When you look back at this incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that.
All the offices that you've ever held over 40 years, so how did the top secret documents get from the secure location to 29-year-old Senator Joe Biden's office in 1972? How did that happen? Was it? Did your staff sneak into the skiff while you were viewing the documents and steal them, and then transfer them over 40 years to every office you've ever held?
If I go back, I didn't have the responsibility of that. That was my staff was supposed to do that.
Oh, he just shit the bed again. Look, he just shit himself again, guys. No, the poor guy. That's the face of a man that needs a diaper change. Oh, poor Mr. Potato. Oh, look at that. Oh, you need a little diaper change, you poor old little confused old man.
And my staff did not do it in the way that, for example, I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage.
I didn't know. How did they get into my private garage next to my Corvette and my broken lamp with duct tape on it and my old shoes? Right? I mean, it must have been evil. It was Donald Trump. He put those documents there. It was Donald Trump.
Found out, staff gathered them up, put them together, and took them to the garage in my home.
It was Donald Trump. Come on, you're missing an opportunity here, Mr. President.
Filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house. It wasn't out in, like in Mar-a-Lago, in a public place where...
No, it was in a garage where the documents have been filmed and shown on TV. Everyone in the world knows that those documents were there. Hunter Biden, when he's in there smoking crack, what do you think he's doing? Thumbing through the documents? Oh, look, I can sell this to China for fucking five grams of hard.
And none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean? Around the corners? None of that. And
Prove it. Prove it was not.
So I wish I had paid more attention to how the documents were being moved and where. I thought they were being moved to the archive.
Hey, what's up, Blind Dude?
I thought all was being moved. That's what I thought. Now, what was the last part of your question?
Whether a special counsel should have been appointed in this case and in the case of your rival president.
I think a special counsel should have been appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law.
Liar!
Period. Thank you all very, very much.
Liar! There's the back of his head. A bald spot and liver spots. That's all you get from the president. There's Juicy. They're not going to call him Juicy
I'm of the
today.
view, as you know, that conduct of a response in the Gaza
Wow,
Strip
Doozy is loud too,
has
son.
been
I like him more now.
over the top. I think that, as you know,
Oh God! Oh God! Make it stop! The man can't concentrate.
the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in.
What? How does the president of Mexico stop Palestinian aid? I don't know. This is all very, very confusing, guys.
I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the
Oh, you mean
Israeli
Bibi,
side.
not
I'm
Sisi.
pushing really hard.
Oh, okay. So you're a fucking idiot. Oh, that's the answer. All right, let's go ahead.
Good afternoon. I have
Hi,
a couple things at the
Karine.
top.
I feel sorry for you. You're about to get wrecked. I feel bad for her, guys. You got to give her a quick round of applause today for Miss Jean-Pierre. She has a lot of balls coming out here. I would have quit. I would have quit my job if I had to do what she's about to do today. All right, let's go.
Top, and then I hand it over to our guest today. Today, the Vice President and the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention are
Oh, yeah,
hosting
drill, baby,
community
drill.
violence intervention leaders from across the country
No
to
one
recognize
cares.
their efforts in reducing and preventing violence
No one cares.
and
What about
ultimately
the
saving
president?
lives. God bless you. The event is a culmination of a week of activities hosted by the Office of Gun Violence Prevention for Community Violence Awareness Week. Community violence intervention programs are a key piece
No
of the
one cares.
President's
What about the
Safer America
president?
plan and have been shown to reduce violence
We
by as much
don't
as
care.
50%.
President.
That's why the Biden-Harris administration continues to
Fuck the
make major
Biden-Harris
investments in
administration. Don't you mean the Obama-Harris administration? I mean, it's obvious the president can't be in charge. He can't even remember when he was vice president.
community violence intervention and other proven solutions to end the epidemic of gun violence. The President's American Rescue Plan provided over $15 billion to prevent crime and promote public safety, while the Bipartisan Safer Community Act provides $250 million in funding for community-based violence prevention initiatives. These actions are reducing crime and saving lives nationwide, with homicides and gun violence rates on the decline in 2023. We will continue to work to protect American communities from this senseless violence while calling on Congress to do its job and take further action to implement common sense gun safety measures. And finally, I also want to share a brief readout from a recent visit by senior U.S. officials to Guyana, Colombia, and also Mexico. Principal Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner traveled to Guyana and Colombia February 4th and 5th,
No
which
one
followed
cares.
a series of
What about
other
the president?
high-level U.S. visits. In Guyana, he met with
What about the president? Is he guilty or is he incompetent? Which one?
President Ali and Caribbean Community CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett to reaffirm U.S. support to Guyana's sovereignty to advance economic and security cooperation
Who gives a fuck
and to
about
discuss
Guyana?
CARICOM's
What about the
priorities for
president?
their February 25th meeting.
Is he
Haiti and
guilty?
Venezuela figured prominently in
Or
these
is he
discussions,
incompetent?
as did Guyana's priorities
I'm gonna
on
say
the
both.
United Nations Security Council. In Colombia, we
I'm
issued a
gonna
joint
say
statement
both.
following Mr. Feiner's meeting with President Gustavo Petro that covered financing for
Yada, yada.
sustainable infrastructure under
Dabba,
President
dabba.
Biden's America's Partnership for Economic Prosperity initiative, as well as ongoing cooperation on security and migration. The statement reaffirmed support for competitive and inclusive elections in Venezuela and implementation of the Barbados Agreement between representatives of Nicolas Maduro and the Unitaria Platform. Mr. Feiner expressed appreciation for Colombia's continued effort to promote dialogue, but also underscored the need for the international community to support an electoral process free of harassment and intimidation, where all candidates are eligible to run for office. Turning to Mexico.
Except for Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't run for office, but in Mexico and Guyana and all these other places, oh yeah, we care about election integrity. But here in America, we rig elections, we cause pandemics, we use the Justice Department against our political rivals. Like, somebody should be invading us because our elections are so shady.
So, for a second, White House Homeland
We should be
Security
invading
Advisor
the White
Dr.
House.
Sherwood Randall led an interagency delegation to Mexico February 6th.
You think George Washington would have put up with this bullshit? Do you think fucking Patrick Henry died for this? Do you think fucking Thomas Jefferson had this in mind? Do you think Ben Franklin would have ever allowed any of this to go on?
And seventh, she engaged in a wide-ranging discussion with President AMLO, and then separately, our delegation met with Mexico's security cabinet, both focused on bilateral and regional issues, including sustained cooperation on migration and joint efforts to promote economic opportunity and development in the Americas. During the fourth meeting of the Trilateral Fentanyl Committee established by President Biden, President AMLO, and the Prime Minister Trudeau, the United States, Mexico, and Canada agreed to 10 joint actions to counter the trafficking of illicit synthetic drugs, including...
That echo is not me, guys. That is their audio. That has that slight echo reverberation. Like I said, they prioritized diversity, equity, inclusion over competence, skill, and ability.
Fentanyl and firearms in North America. These are outlined in our joint statement that was issued yesterday. On February 7th, Treasury designated one of Ecuador's most violent gangs and its leader for fueling the recent surge of violence in Ecuador. The sanctions are just one part of the significant assistance we are providing to our Ecuadorian partners as they confront transnational organized crime and illicit narcotics.
Sanctions are humanitarian assistance now? Yeah, it's so humanitarian that we're blocking aid.
Finally, allow me to once again pay respect for the people of Chile as they mourn the loss of former President Sebastián Piñera.
Fuck that guy. What about this president? What about the Americans that are mourning the death of America right now because you people are fucking ruining everything?
Their homes. The United States is supporting firefighters by deploying technical staff, by providing satellite imagery, and offering funds to the purchasing firefighting equipment, and we stand ready to do more. With that, thank you for your patience. I will turn things over to my colleague, Ian Sams from the White House Counsel's Office.
Oh, it's not Kirby. Oh, okay. I think this guy's going to answer questions about the president.
Good to see everybody. Sure, thanks. I want to start by talking about a few things that I think are important for you all to hear and for the American people to hear. The president spoke powerfully about this last night after a long investigation that turned over...
He spoke powerfully! The motherfucker does not instill a vision of power. Joe Biden spoke feebly, weakly, angrily, right? He was emotional. He did nothing that instilled in me an image of power.
Every stone and explored every theory. The special counsel decided that there was no case there.
He's
notably
a nuclear
because
hire.
This would be true.
Good job,
Mr.
President
Biden was president or a private citizen. The special counsel's assignment when he was appointed was to determine whether any criminal conduct occurred. He found it didn't. That was the finding. The case is closed. I want to read you something from none other than Ken
that
Starr,
the president
who most people in
willfully
this room
and
will remember
deliberately
is the independent counsel who investigated
stole classified documents from a secure SCIF, right? And fucking hoarded them over 40 years as a senator, as a vice president, right?
Clinton. After that investigation, here's what he said to Congress, quote, "What I see the conclusion as being is just a determination that no criminal charges would be brought. Period. Full stop. That is it. It's all over at that stage." End quote. That rings true here. The special counsel report goes on at length about the president's unprecedented cooperation in this case. I want to.
Yeah, he was cooperating because he was guilty as sin. What was he supposed to do? Be like, oh, no, I didn't steal those documents. I don't know how they got there. It was my staff. Oh, wait, no, that's exactly what he did. His staff stole the documents from the SCIF. Well, I feel like that has to be a violation of the Classified Records Act, having your staff in the skiff with you.
Share a few things about that because I think it's very important. One, when the classified documents were found,
Egghead,
it
no
was
shit.
self-reported.
Well, no. You see, gay guys, the guy that takes it up the ass will shave his head so that the guy fucking him can rub his bald head. They're into that thing. I don't know why, but I know that that's a thing with faggots.
The president directed his team to
He's
ensure
definitely the
that
catcher,
any
if you
classified
know what I mean.
documents were returned immediately. Why did he do that? Because the president takes classified information seriously.
Yeah, he takes it. He takes it from the skiff. He takes it to his garage. He takes it to his office. But he's not supposed to have it. If he takes it so seriously, why does he have it? No, what you should say is, seriously, guys, the president takes documents.
Always has. He did not intentionally take classified documents. He understands documents like that belong with the government. He never made any attempt to obstruct.
Reach around, Roger.
2, he took unprecedented action to get the special counsel what he needed. He opened up every room in his family home and his beach house for comprehensive FBI searches, a first time in history.
Yeah, where boxes and hundreds of boxes of documents
An interview
were
that I'll
found.
add, and the president talked about this last night,
Hundreds of boxes
took place the day
containing
after the
thousands
brutal
of documents
attack on Israel. The president was managing an intensive international crisis. You just heard the vice president talk about this. He answered dozens of follow-up questions to the special counsel.
No, he stole dozens of boxes of documents. In the 100. More than 100 boxes of top secret documents.
Writing. 3, he didn't exert executive privilege over any contents of the report. He was transparent. He had nothing to hide. There was a long, intensive, and in many ways, yes, excessive investigation. But for context, you should all remember, in the case of former Vice President Mike Pence, who had a very, very similar incident occur right after President Biden, the case was closed within a few months. It was a brief, one-page letter to Mike Pence. But in this case, there was a 15-month investigation. The special counsel interviewed 100
Yeah, because that's how long it takes to that's how long it takes to piece together 40 years of treason.
50 witnesses. He sought and obtained 7 million pages of documents down to emails about moving trucks during the transition.
7 million pages. Did he just say Joe Biden stole 7 million pages of top secret documents? I heard it was in the thousands, but I didn't know it was in the millions. 7 million pages, guys. He did nothing wrong.
In 2016 and 2017, he spent more than $3.5 million taxpayer dollars exploring every possible theory that he could. And what was the result? He reached the inevitable conclusion, based on the facts and the evidence,
that Joe Biden is guilty as sin, but too feeble to stand trial.
That there was no case here.
Yes, because Joe Biden is not mentally competent to stand trial.
And this is important to think about in context of how this report is being viewed and by many of you being covered. This is the first special counsel investigation ever that hasn't indicted anyone. Every theory was
amazing. Isn't that amazing, guys? Isn't that amazing? No one got indicted. Well, I mean, if the staffers stole this top secret documents from the skiff, shouldn't they be in prison? Like, how did they even get in the skiff? I don't know. None of this makes sense. It sounds like a bunch of lies.
Explored, but the facts and the evidence disputed them. The decision was that there was no case to be made.
Because Joe Biden is too feeble to stand trial. And if he's too feeble to stand trial, he must be too feeble to be the president.
In that reality, we also need to talk about the environment that we are in. For the past few years, Republicans in Congress and elsewhere have been attacking prosecutors who aren't doing what Republicans want politically. They have made up claims of a two-tiered system of justice between Republicans and Democrats They have denigrated the rule of law for political purposes. That reality creates a ton of pressure. And in that pressurized political environment, when the inevitable conclusion is that the facts and the evidence don't support any charges, you're left to wonder.
That's not what it says at all. It says the president woefully and deliberately stole classified documents from a secure location as a senator and as a vice president. It also says that the president will not be convicted because he's too feeble.
Why this report spends time making gratuitous and inappropriate criticisms of the president. Over the past 24 hours, we've actually seen legal experts and former prosecutors come out and give their analysis. Former Attorney General Eric Holder said the report, quote,
Eric Holder, that's the guy. That's the guy that you want to believe. The same guy that said Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. Yeah, he's real credible. What about all your 50? Why don't you get 51 intelligence agents to come out and tell us that the report is a Russian plant?
Contains way too many gratuitous remarks and is flatly inconsistent with long-standing DOJ traditions. The former acting FBI director said he had overseen many cases like this and, quote, you have to have explicit evidence of willful retention of these documents, and that is just not present in this case. The former FBI general counsel, who I'll add was also the lead prosecutor in the special counsel Mueller investigation, said it was, quote, exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is putting your thumb on the scale that could have political repercussions. That's the assessment of seasoned professional law enforcement officials and prosecutors with deep experience at the Department of Justice. Unfortunately, the gratuitous remarks that the former Attorney General talked about have naturally caught headlines and all of your attention. They're wrong, and they're inaccurate, and they obscure...
So, the part where he didn't do it, that's right, but the part where why he's not guilty, that's wrong. So if he's not too feeble to stand trial, he should be impeached immediately. I mean, he should be impeached right now. Like, he should be thrown out of office right now. Either way, he's incompetent and he's guilty.
A very simple truth that I want to repeat one last time, since I know it's hard to wade through 400 full pages.
Please don't read it.
The report lays out example after example of how the president did not willfully take
exactly, Kenny.
Documents.
They could charge him,
the
but they
report
don't think
lays
that
out
he'll be able
how
to
the
get
president did not share
because
classified
he's
documents
incapable of
with
standing
anyone.
trial.
The report lays out how the president did not knowingly share classified information with anyone. On page 2, which I know you all read, the report argues that President willfully retained materials.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. He's guilty.
But buried way later on page 215, the report says, and I quote, there is in fact a shortage of evidence on these points. 200 pages.
A shortage, but not none. Right?
Later. Put simply, this case is closed because the facts and the evidence don't support the theories here. The gratuitous comments that respected experts are saying is out of line are inappropriate. And they shouldn't distract from the fact that the case is closed. And the facts and evidence show that they reached the right conclusion. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
A couple of housekeeping. When and whom was the president briefed about on the contents of the report?
The president was briefed by his lawyers.
And second, the president, and as you mentioned again, you thought some of the characterizations were gratuitous. Does the president still have confidence in Merrick Garland after selecting her to be put in this position?
The president spoke to this last night. I can't remember which of you asked him what his thoughts were on the appointment of the special counsel, and he answered that, I think, thoughtfully and powerfully, and I don't really have anything to add beyond what the president said.
Finally, does the president support the release of the entire transcript of his interview to put to rest some of these things that you think are being overlooked?
It's a reasonable question. I think that it's important to know that we're dealing with classified materials in this conversation. There are classification issues there. I don't have any announcement on releasing anything today, but it's a reasonable question, and there are classified stuff, and we'll have to work through all that.
So, but once you can work through, like, say, a redacted version, would the president support the release as long as you can obviously keep what needs to be kept secret?
Well, we'll take a look at that and make a determination.
Thanks, Ian. 2 questions. First, you said in the topper that the president takes classified information seriously, and the president said last night that he never discussed classified material with anyone. But
yeah, this is unbelievable.
The special counsel's report said that on 3 different occasions he did discuss it with his ghostwriter. I understand it didn't meet the bar for prosecution, but how do you reconcile the president's statement with what's in the report?
Sure. Well, if you read the full report, it actually gets into each of those 3 instances. I think Justin rightly points out that we're talking about 3 instances out of 250 pages of evidence that they're talking about criticizing. I think it's important to look at those 3 examples. 2 of them are his own notes to himself in his personal diary that he was reading about to his ghostwriter for his memoir, for a memoir about his life after his son Beau died. And he was reading these passages that he had...
we should ask the president that. Why didn't anyone ask him that?
Written to himself to share information with him, and he took pains, and the report lays this out, to express how sensitive some of the information was, and that we should be careful with it. And of those 2 passages from his diaries that he talked about with his ghostwriter weren't in the book. There's no classified information in the book. And so I want to just make that point. And the second is there's a...
Yeah, because that ghostwriter would probably be arrested if he revealed the secrets that the president told him.
Kind of an allegation of, willfully taking a classified document that he talked about with his ghostwriter. That's false. As the president talked about last night, he was, again, talking about a handwritten letter that he had sent to President Obama and faxed to him about the Afghanistan troop surge. Like, these are the president's own personal writings, the president's own diary notes to himself. And I think there's an important thing to think about here. There's plenty of historical analogs. The most notable of which is Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, whose diaries very famously became a subject of a lot of attention in the country. And the Justice Department knew that President Reagan's diaries had classified information in them. Knew it at the time. He took those diaries home. He read those diaries to people. He shared the actual physical copy of the diaries, which the special counsel report talks about. Joe Biden never even gave custody of his notebooks to anybody, and
except for his staff, though, right? Right? I mean, if it's all his staff's fault, then he did share all that classified information and put it in the under the discretion of anonymous staffers.
And they never even asked for those diaries back, and they never launched an investigation. And why is that? It's because historically, going back to the beginning of the country, presidents keep diaries. We should want our presidents to be thoughtful and deliberative about the decisions.
But if Donald Trump does it, we need to raid his house.
Decisions that they make on the most consequential issues of our time, and we've entrusted presidents to be safekeepers of this information, and we have expressed, great gratitude, including many of you in the press, when presidents share through books and other things insights into their thinking and decision-making and historical context. And so I think it's lost in the shuffle of all of this that the president did what all of his predecessors had done, which was take notes for himself, keep a diary of his own daily life.
Those were presidents. Joe Biden was a senator and a vice president who does not have the authority to declassify anything.
So that he could think back on these big moments of the time. And so, that's important to know about this allegation that there was sharing.
Right. Is your contention that just because the president rewrote classified material in his own words and then shared it with somebody who didn't have the security clearance for it, that it...
Yeah, exactly. No, it's absolutely okay, right? It's absolutely okay. Because when Joe Biden does it, it's not illegal, right? But if you or I did that, we would be given the chair.
Talk a lot about the report. I understand it's long, 400 pages. I'm not sure how many people in this room have read the entire thing. Page 3, which I think is what everybody's asking about and understandably says, quote, Mr. Biden shared information, including some classified information, with his ghostwriter, right? But if you go to page 248, the report says, quote, we conclude that the evidence does not establish that Mr. Biden willfully disclosed national defense information to his writing assistant. That's in the report. That's the...
Yeah, because he was so old and feeble, he can't remember things right. So he couldn't remember whether they were classified or not. That doesn't mean he didn't do it. It just means that he's so incompetent and so decrepit that it's not necessarily his fault, but he still did it.
Conclusion that was made based on the evidence. And there's something else I want to add about this because we've gone back and forth. On page 1 of the report, it says the president willfully retained classified marked documents relating to Afghanistan. But on page 215 of the report, it says, quote, there's in fact a shortage of evidence on these points. On page 5 of the report, everybody read that, first few pages, it says, quote, Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited. But here's something that everybody should make sure that they see. Elsewhere in the report, he says, quote, we expect the evidence of Mr. Biden's state of mind to be compelling, pointing to him providing, quote, clear and forceful testimony. That's his comments on his state of mind later in the report. And so I think it's important to kind of take the report in its totality and understand that in that report, the facts and evidence refute the theories that are floated.
I bet you read around there, it's not saying what he's trying to make it sound like it's saying, right? It probably has to do with something different than what we're talking about now, right? Right? It has to be... we need to read all of the context around these pages 248 or whatever.
We disagree on if he should have used the word willfully last time. But there's one other thing I wanted to ask you about, which is that his attorney had said that they were going to work on a process to make sure that none of this happens again. Yeah. Obviously, there's the potential that this administration has less than a year left, so I'm wondering if you could detail what the timeline is on that, what you guys are considering for that type of process.
That's a great question. I think that something that this issue a year ago brought to light is that this is a, unfortunately, very common occurrence in our country. The National Archives has talked about how 80 different libraries and collections just in the last decade or so have called and said, oh, we found classified documents in these papers. And they have a process that you're supposed to turn those back in. But then, you know, we had the issue with President Biden. Immediately after that, we had the issue with Vice President Pence. And I think it's important to understand that this is a common occurrence, and the president thinks that we should fix it. Like, he gave all these documents back. He knew he did not... that
he stole them and that he was caught. That's what he knew.
These governments should be in possession, that the government should be in possession of these documents. And so what we're going to do is the president's going to appoint a task force to review how transitions look at classified material to ensure that there are better processes in place so that when, you know, staffs around the building are rushedly packing up boxes to try to get out during a transition as quickly as possible, at the same time and up until the very moment that, you know, they're still governing and doing matters of state, you know, they're going to try to make recommendations that can be.
Yeah, but how does that relate to the documents that Joe Biden stole back in the 70s?
Fixed, and he's going to appoint a senior government leader to do that. We'll have more on that soon.
2017, that he had classified material downstairs. He boasted about it.
In your advocacy here and in the President's counsel writing back to Mr. Herr, you're saying that there were gratuitous comments, that there are false pieces of information. How is the American public supposed to process this when we also live in a world where former President Trump asserts that there was a politicized process that resulted in his prosecution related to classified documents and other things? So for the public, if Democrats and this administration say, trust the Department of Justice, trust the institutions, but you're also arguing here gratuitous political cheap shots and false assertions. How are they to process?
Well, I talked about this actually.
Yeah. We're being attacked, not Donald Trump, is their argument.
I think, you know, when you have the former Attorney General, when you have the former acting FBI director, when you have the former general counsel of the FBI. Yep, you did speak too soon, brother. You know, these are experienced people at the Justice Department who spent decades working at the Justice Department, and they're saying it's gratuitous. They're saying that this is inappropriate, that this is inconsistent with DOJ policy and practice. That's them saying. We agree. You know, you heard the president speak forcefully about this last night. You heard the vice president speak forcefully about this today. We certainly agree that it's gratuitous. But I explained this a little bit in the opening. You know, we're in a very pressurized political environment. And when you are the first special counsel in history not to indict anybody, there is pressure.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy how nobody got indicted over 40 years of treason. I mean, imagine, knowing what we know about Joe Biden, right, that he's for sale, imagine how many spies have been killed over the information that he sold to foreign governments.
To criticize and to make, you know, statements that
imagine how many troops have been murdered by jihadis because of information Joe Biden shared with our enemies.
Otherwise you wouldn't make. And, you know, I think that it leaves you wondering why some of these critiques are in there. But I think it's also important to just fundamentally distinguish between the prior case that you mentioned. I want to be careful in terms of commenting on that. But the special counsel report goes into great detail about the differences and distinctions there. And I think it's important to understand that the criticisms that...
Yeah, the important distinction between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is the documents that Donald Trump had were declassified by him under his purview as president. Whereas the documents stolen by Joe Biden were taken from a skiff going back to the 70s when he was just a bald-headed 29-year-old senator.
Hearing of the gratuitous comments in the report, which are wrong, frankly, you know, this is being shared by people who have deep experience at the Justice Department.
On the many issues related to memory that certainly seem to prompt an angry response from the president and from his advocates, is there anything being done to address that issue in an ongoing way? Obviously, counsel wrote asking for some of those things to be removed. It is potential that Robert Hur could be called before Congress to testify in public. Are there any steps that the administration would take addressing that specific issue? Is it in relation to overall medical physician's report of the president or other things to demonstrate what is the issue with memory, and is it a factor that deals with his capacity?
Yeah. We want him to take the test they made Donald Trump take. Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
To serve.
Well, I have a lot of issues with the content of that question, and Karine's answered a lot about the president's transparency in his medical records and his physical and things of that nature. And
Does Joe get more forgetful the more you bribe him?
I'll say,
I think
I just
so.
read you this.
I think so, Kenny.
Page 248, or sorry, excuse me. Later in the report, he says, quote, "We expect the evidence of Mr. Biden's state of mind to be compelling," pointing to him providing, quote, "clear and, quote, forceful testimony." I can't explain why the report...
I'm sure that those quotes are non-contiguous, meaning they're a quote from here, a quote from there, and they don't relate to each other or even talking about the same thing that he's saying it says. I promise you, he's chopping up the report and using things that sound good, even though they're damning.
Veers all over the place on this issue. I can just say, and as you've heard from the Vice President, you heard from members of Congress yesterday talking about their recent interactions with the President. One, Congressman Goldman from New York, talking about his interaction with the President the day before this interview, when Congressman Goldman was on the ground in Israel.
Oh, you mean a Democrat shill? Wow, you mean the guy who lied about Hunter Biden's testimony? Or not Hunter, Devin Archer's testimony? The guy that lied about what Devin Archer said? Oh, you mean a guy who is politically motivated and highly partisan says that Joe Biden's doing A-OK, while anybody else that observes him is worried about how long he has left on this earth.
And the long and intensive and detailed conversation they had about what was going on the ground. We just reject that this is true. And I think that it does raise questions about the gratuitousness, and it raises, makes you wonder why that's in there.
Thank you, Karine, and thank you, Ian. So you are discrediting some of the findings in this report. You are discrediting some of the observations of President Biden. So why should the American public accept the conclusion that charges weren't warranted?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking.
I'm saying you're claiming that much of the report is inaccurate. So why are you so confident that the conclusion is correct?
The conclusion is very obvious.
Yeah, exactly. If the report is so wrong, why should we be confident that the conclusion that Biden shouldn't be charged is right? That's the question. So, like, if you're saying that this report is a bunch of malarkey, then why are you bragging about how they found you not fit to stand trial?
Obvious from the very beginning. It was a long, intensive, sort of meandering investigation that came to the conclusion that in February of last year, everybody knew that this wasn't intentional, that this was an accident, that they were found, and as soon as they were found, the president said, give them back. Get them back as soon as we can and fully cooperate with everything. So he reached the inevitable conclusion because it's the truth. The conduct of the investigation throughout and the gratuitous comments in the report.
How does 29-year-old Senator Biden accidentally steal millions of pages of documents from a SCIF? How is that possible? Accidentally, millions of times.
Are troubling and they're inappropriate. But I think that the finding was the obvious one because it's the truth.
President Biden blamed his staff largely for the mishandling of documents and where they ultimately ended up. Does the president believe he did everything right
predator.
when it comes to handling classified material?
Well, just look at the again. Look at the report. I know it's long, but the report talks about how the evidence is that these were most likely things that were packed up by staff during movements and transitions and things of that nature. So that's
okay. But how did they originally get out of the SCIF and into the boxes that were then moved by staff or whatever?
Reflected by the report. It's not some accusation by the president. It's just true. I mean, you guys know. You guys work with.
So you're telling me Joey Salone, the mover from Joey's Moving Company, was moving millions of pages of top secret documents? What a chain of custody, man. You guys are fucking amazing.
White House staff all the time. We support the principal. That's our job. And the principal relies on their staff to help them with things. And the president said this last night. You know, he talked about how, you know, looking back, if he had been more engaged, he wished he was more engaged in that process of the packing and the moving things to make sure that things were being done the right way. And I think the most important thing to remember is once it was realized that something wrong had happened, he did everything right to get it back and to fix the problem.
What about all the stuff that he talked about that was in his home, in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked in his house? What stuff was he talking about? Classified material?
Locked, able to be locked? What's the difference?
He talked about, I mean, the report goes on at length about this. I'd encourage you to read it. It talks about
what he said last night. He said the stuff in my house was all in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. Didn't he put them in his home?
I'm not really following the question. I think that what's clear is that, and I told this to Justin a minute ago.
Oh, she broke him! Big shout out to Ouija. She fucking broke him.
You know, he has personal diaries that he had. Of course he has personal diaries. The documents that were taken were jumbled up in boxes and found inadvertently in places, and that's what happened. So.
We gotta move on.
Yes, thank you. How concerned is the president and the team here that the
SCIF, Secure Classified Information Facility, or something like that, or confidential, Secure Confidential Information Facility, or something like that?
quote gratuitous comments are going to damage him, damage public perception of him?
I think the public is smart, and I think that they can see what's going on. I think that they see a president who fully cooperated. I think they see a president who did the right thing and made sure everything got back. And I think that they see that this was a long investigation that ended without a case to be made. And, you know, I think that they can see and understand, you know, when people are gratuitous and make comments that they shouldn't make and that are beyond the...
Yeah, like you coming out here and saying that Joe Biden didn't steal documents. Those are comments that are gratuitous and shouldn't be made.
The remit of a prosecutor to do. I think that they understand that, and I think that they'll understand that the president did the right thing here.
The 7th and 8th were obviously, or 8th and 9th were obviously like very busy days where the president was overstretched, taking calls in the middle of the night. All of this.
Why continue with the interview with her? Why not do it on another day? Why give him the opportunity to have these lines in the report about lapses, about timelines?
He should have thrown up roadblocks. Is that what you're saying? I mean, no, he committed to it, and
like, hey, the world is on fire. Could we do it another day?
I'll tell you what's interesting about this, and this is oddly not in the report, is at the beginning of his interview, the special counsel told the president, I understand that you're dealing with a lot of things right now, and I'm going to be asking you questions about stuff from a long time ago. I want you to try to recall to the best of your abilities, things of that nature. That's often what prosecutors would tell witnesses. So, he understood that, but the president was going to commit to being cooperative. He talked about this last night. He wanted to make sure he had everything he needed, and he didn't want to throw up roadblocks.
Thanks, Karine. Just a first question. Has the president read the entire report, and when was he given the report?
The president can't read.
Did he review it when his lawyers...
The man can barely speak. I doubt he can read.
Privilege review, and do you have any just context on when he himself found the findings of it?
We received the report yesterday from the Justice Department, and formally sending it over. Obviously, the president's lawyers were doing the privilege review that we disclosed to everybody was happening and disclosed when we had concluded it.
Yeah, if you post the video, I'll play it. I love Ronald Reagan.
They had briefed him on the material as a client, as is typical in a legal case.
Are you a bad enough dude to say President Ronnie?
The president's been pretty busy. I'm not sure he's read 400 pages. I'm not sure how many folks in this room have read all 400 pages of it, but he certainly is familiar with the contents of the report.
Just one quick follow-up. The president was animated last night, rejecting the idea that he did not remember when his son died. Can you provide a little bit more context about, was he directly asked in the interview by the special counsel for the dates? Was it part of a broader conversation? I just think some additional context to understand what is in that report might be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the president was pretty clear last night, and I think that the American people...
No, he wasn't. He was full of shit. He was clearly full of shit, if that's what you mean.
I've heard from him for years about the pain.
We just watched that video. There was nothing clear about it.
Passed away, and the gravity of that, and I think to suggest that he couldn't remember...
Joe can't spell Bob backwards.
...really out of bounds. The conversations in the interview back and forth, he's being asked about, file folders from a basement and how did they get there and what is that and what were you doing around that time and things of that nature. I don't want to be very careful. I don't want to get into specific, things while it's still in a classification process. But, it is safe to say that, of course, the president knows when his son died.
So do you have any sense of why the special counsel would write explicitly in the report that the president was unable to recall when his son died?
You'd have to ask the special counsel why he chose to include that.
Thanks, Karine. Thanks, Ian. So you said that you told the special counsel that the criticisms of President Biden were inaccurate.
It's none of your damn business.
So how did the special counsel respond when you told them that?
I put out his report. I'm unaware of any strong, forceful, and rooted in evidence arguments that we provided.
And you had just mentioned how these interviews happened shortly after the election.
That's the joke of the day. Strong, forceful, and rooted in it. Yeah, you may be strongly trying to force your bullshit on it, but none of it... Are we back? We better be back. Okay, we got green bars. Yeah. Sorry, my internet connection just shit all over the place. Just like it was Joe Biden giving an interview. Okay, let's go.
The president spoke very clearly about how his mind.
Are we back? Oh, we're back. Yay! Okay. We're going to try this one more time, but I'm having internet issues.
Witnesses are told, as I mentioned by special counsel, to do the best they can to recall or remember things. And they're not supposed to speculate. They want facts. They want facts and evidence. And so...
Yeah, so do we. Unfortunately, you're not giving us any.
I think probably in almost every prosecutorial interview you can imagine that people have said that they don't recall things because that's what they're instructed to do. So I think that's just important context to keep in mind.
Lastly, in September, the president was asked about Trump's classified documents being found in Mar-a-Lago, and he said, quote, how could that possibly happen? How could anyone be that irresponsible? But there were classified documents found in the president's garage in a damaged cardboard box. So would that be considered irresponsible?
Look, I think the president made clear that he gave everything back as soon as he found out that he had it. And
that's not the question.
I think that it's fundamentally incorrect to try to analogize the situation, or to and frankly, the report says that too. And the idea that that he did anything except be totally cooperative and to take great strides to ensure that the classified documents were returned speaks for itself.
Thank you. Ian, the Vice President referred today to the report as being politically motivated. Is that the position of the White House, that this report was politically motivated?
Well, I saw the Vice President's remarks. I thought they were very powerful, and I talked about this a little bit at the top of our conversation here today. You know, there's an environment that we are in that generates a ton of pressure because you have congressional Republicans, other Republicans, attacking prosecutors that they don't like. And it creates, you know, a need. If you're going to determine that charges weren't filed, people are human and they're thinking through, you know, what do we need to do? And, you know, it leaves one to wonder exactly why he included a lot of the criticisms that were in there.
Also, with regard to the staff, President Biden has had some staff members who've worked for him for decades. He referenced their mistake last night. Has he had a visit with any of these staff members? Do the staff members who are responsible for taking those documents to his house, do they still work for the president? Have there been any contact?
Before, I mean, this is an issue that has plagued administrations of both parties for 50 years, where accidentally things get shuffled up and taken and removed. And mistakes happen sometimes. I'm not going to get into sort of individual witness or parsing like that from the report.
President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush Sr., or President Bush Jr. I don't know if 3 people makes it a common.
That's actually not true. Officials from all administrations from the past, you know, half century had this accidentally happen.
That's not the question he's asking.
Happen. And what matters is how you respond.
Listen to that response. The guy clearly asks him a question about whether or not these staffers are still working for Biden. And he says, well, you're talking about the norm? No, he's talking about, do these people work here?
To it. And when you find out that there was a mistake that was made, you give everything back. And that's exactly what was done.
That is not the question that was asked.
Thanks, Ian. What does it say about Merrick Garland's judgment that he appointed someone who ultimately put out a report that was so egregious, so inappropriate, and flouted department regulations and norms?
I would say that it just proves what kind of leadership the White House is giving you. We're so incompetent, we fuck ourselves.
The president actually answered this question last night. I'm not sure which of you asked him it, but he talked about, you know, his views on the appointment of the special prosecutor, and I really don't have anything beyond what he said.
2 things I was hoping you could quickly clarify. The report says that in 2017, the president told his ghostwriter that he just found all the classified stuff downstairs. Why did he not report that at the time?
Well, because the president wanted to remain transparent, and he took the documents seriously, guys. He took them seriously.
Well, and this is included in the report as well, if you read through it. The president was talking about a handwritten letter that he had sent to President Obama that he faxed to him about the Afghanistan policy in 2009.
You mean the classified information that he shared with a ghostwriter?
And you know, he says, and this is in the report, that and he said last night, you know, I should have said sensitive. I should have said, you know, really careful, you know, more careful language about that, because he was talking about something that was a personal, like a letter he sent to the president.
So in his mind, it was sensitive, but what he said was classified.
Yeah, this is in the report. They talk a lot about how, you know, the president actually took great care when talking with his book writer to note things like, hey, you need to be really careful with some of this stuff. I'm not entirely sure about it. Of information as they explore all the theories and go through all the evidence that sort of refutes most of those theories, almost all of those theories. When you think about the judgment that there will be no case in this matter, so you know that's addressed in the report.
And the second thing, the president also said last night, all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either my documents were in cabinet drawers, while others about Afghanistan, for example.
Personal diaries, of course, he has them in his house. So, you know, I don't have anything kind of to add on what he said last night.
I want to follow up.
Are we back? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having issues. If this keeps happening, we're going to have to cut it short, guys. I'm sorry.
Counsel's office sent to the special counsel to talk about the Department of Justice norms and policies that they see as being violated by some of the comments and remarks made in the report. And so, I think that that's a false equivalence kind of question, because what we have argued and what we continue to say and believe is that you're not supposed to make these sorts of things according to Justice Department policy. The president, when he ran, and you guys all know this because you heard this, talked about how important it was to restore the rule of law.
Yeah, and we restored the rule of law by breaking it over and over and over again.
He understands that, and he talked about this last night to MJ's point about the appointment of the special counsel and sort of how he felt about that. This is a president who is committed to restoring those norms. And I think when we object to some of the gratuitousness in the comments that you're asking about, and you hear me talk about the former Attorney General and other people who've made those comments, they are criticizing that this does not follow those norms.
Give us one a little bit.
Yeah, I know, we got to keep going.
With respect to the portion of the video and the transcript where he was asked about his time as vice president and about Beau Biden's death, why not release those parts of the video? Those aren't classified.
It's a transcript we're talking about, and I already addressed this with Justin.
Okay, so what you're saying is this wasn't a video, there's not tapes that you can release of that?
I was just responding. I think that the question is about the transcript.
Okay,
We're not going to release the transcript. We're not going to release the video because it clearly shows our guy can't string together sentences or remember key events in his life.
As far as former Attorney General Holder is concerned, you referenced him and the normal DOJ review process. He brought that up in his tweet as well, or his ex posting. What part of the normal DOJ review process is the White House saying was violated or bypassed in some way?
Well, there's actually, it's an interesting question. It's a little in the weeds, pardon me, but the special counsel regulations that exist at the Justice Department govern the process that is supposed to happen here. And the Justice Department has its own sort of manual of procedures. And, as you've heard from those experts, you're not supposed to sort of criticize unindicted conduct when you're making these determinations.
Okay, Phil in the back.
Thank you. A follow-up and then a separate question. You said a moment ago that the president was responding to inaccurate information when he claimed last night that all the stuff in my home was behind locked filing cabinets. Is he entirely clear now, at this point, where all the documents were discovered? And does he now know that his statement about locked filing cabinets is false?
The report lays out in 400 pages of detail all of the evidence and all of the review that they conducted in looking into this matter. The president made sure that all of the classified documents that were found were returned promptly to the government, which is what you're supposed to do, which is why this is the inevitable conclusion that there is no case here.
And that's not what I asked, though. Does he know that his statement yesterday that all the documents were behind locked cabinets was inaccurate? Is he clear in his mind? I know that last night was perhaps, stressful, confusing environment.
The president, he's confused all the time, but does he now admit that no, they weren't in locked boxes?
But does he
I understand what you're trying to ask, Phil, and I think that I've answered the question.
I have a separate follow-up question, and that is, my follow-up question after that lack of a response was, there was an eye-popping moment in the report specifically about the president's ghostwriter, and that was that after he learned that the special counsel had began an investigation, he deleted some of his recordings. Now,
deleted it, guys. Yeah. And that's how you know that there's nothing to see here. Because there's literally nothing to see here. They erased it all.
Those recordings were able to be recovered. What I'm curious about is, can you say definitively whether or not the president or anyone else at the White House was in contact with his ghostwriter?
This is in the report. I mean, read the report. In the report it says that they sought this, they looked into this, and that they didn't. So that's in the report.
They were not in.
I know. I mean, what? I mean, come on.
You did say something that was factually incorrect. There has been a
calling him out. Let's go back.
I'd be offended by that. I mean,
I'm not a lawyer, correct? Just for clarity, you're from the White House counsel's office, correct? But you're not a lawyer, correct?
That's correct. I'm a spokesperson.
Okay. Any chance that we'll get the White House counsel to come out here and answer questions directly?
Any chance that we'll get somebody out here who can answer the questions correctly.
I get offended all the time.
No, I mean, what?
What's up, Steve,
come on.
baby?
You did say something that was
I was
There has been a previous special counsel.
I hope you got your waders on. The
I
bullshit
was
is
asked to
getting
come
thick.
today by your colleagues in the press corps, and we happily obliged.
As you know, former President Trump, he was charged with a slew of criminal charges related to classified documents in his possession, including counts of willful retention of national defense information. In this report, it's made clear by the special counsel that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified material. He kept it in unsecured locations after his vice presidency, which presented, according to the special counsel, serious risks to national security. So my question to you, Ian, is...
guys, it's just serious risks to national security, right? And we're going to sit here and argue over what the word serious means.
Can you explain to every voter out there, every American, why it is that President Biden essentially is let off the hook and former President Trump is now facing these slew of criminal charges, which seem to most people very similar?
Great wind-up, John. I mean, really a good wind-up. I talked about this already. Page 1, willful retention. Page 2, 15. There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence on these points. The report itself goes through in great detail the facts and evidence that led to the obvious conclusion that there was no case here. The report itself answers the question you're asking about the distinction between two cases, as you guys have heard us from the White House say for a long time. We're very careful about commenting on certain...
He does look like the Dana Carvey turtle guy. Yeah, he looks just like it. This guy is more of a turtle than Mitch McConnell.
Cases like that, I would encourage you, perhaps all of you, read the report.
And that's the reason why I asked that question. And the reason why so many people seem confused, because you hear willful retention of national defense information related to Trump, willful retention of classified material related to President Biden, and yet one individual is facing a criminal trial being brought by the Department of Justice in Fort Pierce, Florida, and the other one is not facing any charge.
Yeah, I think that this represents how our democracy is in peril and how we are surely and slowly and strategically shifting towards a corporate fascist system ruled by the Plutarchs and soon to be greatly replaced by the third world.
And I think I've talked to many of you guys in the room over the last 24 hours about this. The allegation that there was willful retention of documents is refuted by the evidence in the report. And the conclusion was made directly that the evidence does not support that claim. He explored the theory. It's in there on page 2. Everybody focus on it. I'm exploring the theory of willful retention, but that the evidence as a whole was insufficient because that's not what the facts show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karine. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
There was a previous special counsel probe that did not result in indictments, by the way. The Ham-Jordan case.
Okay, thank you. I would say refer to the White House special counsel, and now, not special counsel, but legal counsel. They're here. They came. Okay. Go ahead, Elmer.
Excuse me.
Yeah, they didn't
Questions
answer
following
shit.
up on comments that the President made last night.
Yeah.
President Biden called the military operations in Gaza over the top. And this comes after the White House has pretty consistently defended Israel's conduct. What's changed, and what exactly did the President mean by over the top?
Yeah, so first of all, I would say nothing has changed. His position hasn't changed. I don't think his messaging has changed. We don't think his messaging has changed. He doesn't believe his messaging has changed.
Oh, I feel so sorry for Karine. She's going to have a rough time, guys. Unfortunately, we're not going to get any answers out of her. That's just the way it goes. And I also want to say, notice how they didn't give Peter Doocy a question.
This isn't something, the first time he's done so, what you heard from him yesterday. Look, the President made it very clear, in his comments that he was obviously talking about
he takes documents
Israel's
seriously.
conduct in Gaza, and he's been
Seriously,
clear,
guys,
that the
he takes
United
them.
States
from
wants
the
to see
skiff,
Hamas, a
he
terrorist
takes them to
organization,
his,
defeated. He's been very clear on that. That is a shared goal that we have, obviously, with Israel. But at the same time...
Is it Israel or Mexico? Are we talking about the president of Israel or the president of Mexico? Because, you know, we get them confused all the time. Oh.
Clear that they must do so by ensuring that their operations are targeted and conducted in a way that we are protecting innocent civilians. And that is something that we have been incredibly consistent about here in this administration. We want to make sure that we are also protecting innocent civilians. So that is what the president was speaking to yesterday. He was asked, obviously, a direct question, and he answered that.
Secondly, the President last night bristled against the fact that many Americans have concerns about his age. I think to a question of one of my colleagues, he said, that's your judgment, suggesting it's the media's judgment. There's no shortage of published polls that suggest Americans have concern about his age and stamina, and it's been put in all sorts of different ways. So is the President out of touch with what Americans feel about this issue?
So, you know, look, obviously, when it comes to the report more broadly, you just heard from my colleague, Ian Sams, that part of the report we don't think lives in reality, and that's what he was speaking to, where you know, comments were made in that report.
The parts that condemn us are lies, and the parts that we can string together from all these different parts of the document, we can take quotes and patch them all together, right? We can quote mine this document and patch all those quotes together to make us look innocent, right? Those are the things you should believe. And all the other rest of it is a bunch of lies.
About that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality. No, I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah, well, the things you people believe are the most retarded things I've ever heard. So let's hear it, Karine.
Just give me a beat. I'm going to answer your question. When you have a president that has been...
Yeah, right.
One of the most...
You ain't going to answer shit, bitch, and we know it.
It's not the most productive and effective president in modern time. That, you would assume, is a president that is indeed in touch with where the American people are, right? That would assume that the president understands in modern time. One of the most productive, if not the most productive, when you have a president that has been one of the most productive, if not the most productive and effective presidents in modern time, that...
Oh, is she talking about Donald Trump? I know she can't be talking about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not effective nor productive. The man takes 4-day weekends, right, and then calls a lid at 1 o'clock every day. How's that being productive?
Is a president that is indeed in touch with where the American people are, right? That would assume that the president understands what's going on around the kitchen table when Americans are sitting around the kitchen table trying to figure out how are they going to deal with the economy, how are they going to deal with health care. So, in our opinion, in my opinion, he is very much in touch with what Americans are feeling out there. As it relates to lowering costs, as it relates to making sure that big pharma. This isn't the president who understands what the American people are feeling. No. Look, as it relates to his age...
Sideshow Bob was not a strong woman of color. In fact, the way things are today, Karine could replace Sideshow Bob, and everybody would be like, so stunning. So brave.
As it relates to what has been said in this report, it is something that we don't believe lives in reality in the sense of everybody sees somebody who works very, very hard, has spent hours with him, understanding exactly what American people are and what they're feeling, and also how to deliver on those critical, important issues to them.
Your argument on the report and but he seemed to be playing
Congress. But there's reports from all of you who have said that they have interviewed some of these folks and have said the president is sharp. The president, when they have a conversation with the president, he understands the issue. I mean, we saw it at the last State of the Union. He was able to negotiate while giving a very important speech, about 90 minutes, to the world. Millions of Americans watch as he was able to negotiate with House Republicans in the room. So people see that also for themselves. They also see that for themselves as well.
Let me tell you, as the American people, what I see is an embarrassment. is a weak, feckless, spineless, decrepit husk of a human being that is just a mere shadow of his former self, right? At one time, yes, Joe Biden was quick-witted. He was sharp. He may not have been the smartest guy in the room, but he was one of the most charming, right? Right? Those days are gone. Joe Biden embarrasses this country. Joe Biden encourages our enemies to do violence against our allies.
I feel that this is the result of Americans being concerned about his age is just based on a media narrative, and it's not based in reality.
What I'm saying is that he understands what people may think. He's actually joking about
I don't think he understands the definition of the word understands. I don't think Joe Biden understands where he is, how he got there, what day it is, and who is actually he has been talking to, right? Because he keeps saying, oh, I just saw Jackie a minute ago. Buddy, Jackie's been dead for months. Elected Joe Biden. That's the only joke I see here.
There are results. His record, the data shows that this is a president that gets where the American people are and has delivered in that way, whether it's the economy, whether it's healthcare, even on the global stage. What other leaders have said about him, right? What he has been able to bring leaders together, more than 50 countries, to deal with an issue, not an issue, a war, to be very clear, in Ukraine, where the brave people of Ukraine are fighting against Mr. Putin's aggression.
For what? So that they are ultimately going to lose and surrender the territories that Putin has occupied? Yeah, it's the great leadership of Joe Biden that got 1 million people butchered in the meat grinder for nothing. What a great president. And that's what they're going to remember him for. It's the million loser body count.
So, world leaders see it. Leaders on the other side of Pennsylvania, whether it's Republican.
World leaders see it. That's why they're all rising up against our authority. That's why our enemies are attacking our allies and murdering them.
Or Democrat see it. And so that matters as well. And that's what we're trying to say to you as well. It is that we have seen and we have heard from others that this is a president that has delivered, and this is a president that's going to continue to do so for the American people. Go ahead, Sonia.
Exactly, Kenny.
You downplayed concerns
they see
about
our
the president's
weakness.
memories and situations
And our
where
weakness.
he mixed up certain things. You said it happens. And
Our weakness is Joe Biden and this administration and all these people that continue to cart him out here and embarrass himself day after day after day.
Common, but yesterday we saw the president again have a mix-up with the president of Egypt, with the president of Mexico. So how do you explain that? Is it not valid that voters would have these concerns? This chick is hot as
fuck, too.
Look, what I would say is this. That this is a president that has had relationship with
little girls. This is a president that's had an inappropriate relationship with his own daughter. Is that what you're trying to say? This is the president that whispers things so atrocious into little girls' ears that they blush and they try to run away from him.
Leaders for more than 40 years. He has. And at times, and I even said this yesterday, has he misspoken, as many of us do? I've laid out some examples of even Speaker Johnson just on TV on Meet the Press on Sunday, who said he supports Iran when he meant to say he supports Israel. It happens. It truly, truly happens. In that same answer that he gave, he actually gave an incredibly detailed.
I wish I had a farm down south.
He was responding to the question that he received from one of your colleagues. And look, I want to quote one more person, as I've been quoting folks today. Yara Rosenberg at the Atlantic said, Biden has gaff names his entire career. His entire career. It is not uncommon that he has done that, like many of us do. And he said he was clearly talking about Egypt and named Sisi and laid out his policy and the broader issues in detail. Twitter just isn't interested in that, right? And so look, This is a president who has the experience. He's been, you've heard me say this, he's been senator for 36 years. He's been obviously vice president.
Yeah, and he stole documents the whole entire time. He stole top secret documents as a senator.
For 8 and now president. He has these long relationships with leaders. I think what's important here is to remember is that when it comes to the
relationships with leaders of foreign countries, specifically our enemies, because he gives them classified information that he stole from the skiff.
The issue at hand, he understands that and has dealt with that probably, better than, any modern day president because of the record that we have seen, because of what has presented in front of him.
Not really. I can't think of one movie that I would like to see. Maybe Oppenheimer. But I mean, if I wanted to watch it, I could just steal it off the internet for free.
As we look at what's going on in the world, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East.
How did the president react when he first saw the report?
I'm not going to get into, private discussions, private conversations with the president.
No, he can't even if he declassifies the documents, Harlot, he was still guilty when he took them, right? Like I got a felony for marijuana in Arizona, right? Now, marijuana is legal in Arizona, but I'm still guilty of selling illegal drugs because when I did it, I knew it was illegal.
And just to follow up quickly, I think Justin had asked this before, but Ian Sams was making this argument that these are notes that he was reading from his own personal notes, from his own personal diary, but that can still be classified information even if it was stuff he had written to himself. So is the White House disputing that there was classified information there?
So look, I'm not going to get into, Ian spent a good couple of minutes going back and forth and answering that question. I don't have anything else beyond what Ian, my colleague, shared here. I think the bigger picture here is that the case is closed, and I think that's what the American people also should know as well. And so I'm just not going to get into details from here. Okay.
Thanks, Karine. With concerns about the president's age, are there any plans within the White House to have him engage more with the press, engage more? He decided not to do the interview before the Super Bowl that many presidents have done. Has there been any considerations about revisiting that or other sorts of engagement to, as you said, many people in the White House do not see the image of him that the report depicts? Is there conversations about trying to change that perception among the American people?
I mean, look, you saw, your colleagues were, I think, were you in the room, Tyler, yesterday? Your colleagues and yourself were able to see the president and ask questions yesterday.
Yeah, they got to ask 5 questions over 6 minutes. 5 questions. In 2 years, all we've got was 5 questions from the president. Let that sink in. Donald Trump took questions almost every day, whether he had a press briefing or not. He would come outside and argue with reporters every single day, damn near.
He did that, I believe, if not the day before yesterday, he did that a couple times this week, I think about 3 times, engaging with the press. It's just something that he does pretty often. And we're going to try and obviously pick moments. He's going to, on his own, have moments where he's going to want to walk over and talk to all of you, as he's done many times before. We're going to continue, obviously, to your question, yes, we're going to find many different ways
Where do I get
to
a good
engage with the press.
copy off of the Pirate Bay?
That's something that we think is very important. It's important to take your questions. It's important to hear from all of you and hear directly what's on the mind of the American people, as well as what we believe is on the mind of the American people, and take questions. So that's not going to change. I don't have anything.
But I'm just wondering if there's been more conversation in the White House in the last 24 hours about a sense of urgency to try to get the president.
I hear the question, but he literally took questions from all of you 3 times this week. 3 times.
No, he didn't. He did not. 1 time for 2 minutes. Oh, you mean when he was answered 1 question on his way to the helicopter? That's not a press conference.
Once when we were on the broad,
but just more broadly about getting the president out more to try to combat the idea that he has memory issues and is a.
I hear your question, but we literally did. I was on the road with the president from Thursday.
There goes the eyelids.
We went to Vegas. The president has been out there, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. And now, obviously, we're in February. We're going to continue doing that as we have been for the last 2 to 3 years. It's not going to stop.
Yeah. Well, all you're doing is embarrassing yourself, embarrassing the president, embarrassing America, and fortifying our enemies against us every time he comes out and speaks. That's the only outcome.
Thanks, Karine. A question about Israel. Has he communicated to Prime Minister Netanyahu that he believes his response has been over the top? Is that language he has used in their discussion?
I mean, look, we have read out we've read out conversations that the president has had with the prime minister. The president has always been clear with the prime minister.
He's been clear, guys.
I just don't have anything beyond that.
He's always clear.
He said yesterday, what the president said yesterday, he's done before, in saying very.
So does that mean that Roe v. Wade is the law of the land now? Remember Roe v. Wade, guys.
Clearly, obviously, we believe that Israel has a right to defend itself. Obviously, we believe we are in agreement that a terrorist organization. They have to make sure that they deal with this terrorist organization that on October 7th, terrorized and killed more than 1,200 people. That is a reality. But at the same time, the president has also been clear that their military operations need to be done in a precise way, in a more targeted way. We need to protect civilians' lives. And so...
All right, guys, it's running down. So this press conference has been over for a few minutes, and we're just catching up. Uh-oh. What happened? What happened? It just got cut off. What happened?
I mean, had with the prime minister.
Here we go. Sorry,
the president
guys.
has always been clear with the prime minister. I just don't have anything beyond that. What he said yesterday, what the president said yesterday, he's done before, in saying very clearly, obviously we believe that Israel has a right to defend itself. Obviously we believe we are in agreement that a terrorist organization, they have to make sure that they deal with this terrorist organization that on October 7th, terrorized and killed more than 1,200 people. That is a reality.
Goddamn them Palestinians.
But at the same time, the president.
No innocent Gazans.
And it has also been clear that their
85% of them support Hamas's attack on Israel. So that's statistically all of them.
Military operations need to be done in a precise way, in a more targeted way. We need to protect civilians' lives. And so, that has been the case. Now, in the broader scope, the president has been working with his team to make sure that we have another humanitarian pause. We understand how important that is, to make sure we bring those hostages home to their friends.
The dead guys, we're going to bring their bodies home. We need to stop the war so we can bring all the dead people home before they get more deaded.
Family, to their loved ones, and also get that really critical, important humanitarian aid that's needed in Gaza. Get that in there, and so that's been the president's position. Nothing has changed there.
Can you clarify whether there's been any change in White House policy with regard to tying aid for Israel to its action?
I don't have any change of policy to announce to all of you.
Since my colleague referenced the question that we asked last night, the question was about voters having concerns about the president's age, and his response was that was my judgment. It was obviously making a reference to public polls that are out there that indicate that voters do have this concern. So does the president not believe that many voters have this concern about his age?
I mean, the president's talked about it. He's joked about his age. Right? He has joked about his age, understanding what voters might think. He has. He's done that pretty often. I think what I think the other thing that we want to make sure that you all understand is that this is a president that also has delivered for the American people. That is a fact. That is something that we see.
They're called Gaza hotties. Gee,
in the data. That is something that we see in the policy, whether it's a bipartisan legislation that we've been able to get through, that people didn't think we would be able to get through, whether it's as it relates to like infrastructure, or the Chips and Science Act, real things that American people feel. And for him, that's what he believes is important to focus on, is what the American people need in the sense of issues that matter to them. And that's what
the president being a feeble, incompetent, fucking deranged child molester, that's not important to the American people. What's important to the American people are junk fees and climate change.
Wants his focus to be. That's what we want our focus to be as well. That's what we're always trying to communicate with all of you. But he jokes around about it all the time. He makes jokes about his age all the time.
I'm just asking for clarification on why the fact that we brought up that concern prompted him to say, this is yours, as though there isn't...
Because what
that shows that voters do have that concern.
Well, I just stated moments ago, it is your judgment, right? In the sense of like, that is not what we see, right? When we see what... It wasn't
my judgment.
But meaning more broadly. I'm not talking about you specifically. More broadly.
I'm just asking, does the president believe and understand that that is a concern that voters have?
I already said he understands. That's why he makes jokes about it. I think he understands that. But what we are trying to say is, our judgment from here, what we see from the president, is a president that is zeroed in and focused on the American people. When we see him working, he is focused, and we don't see...
When we see him working, on the one or two occasions that he's done that, he is focused. But 99.9% of the other time, which is almost 100% of the time, he's a disheveled, decrepit, demented, child molesting, pervert, joke of a president.
But, for example, all of this was brought up by the report. We do not believe that part of the report lives in reality. And that is what we're speaking to. That is what we're talking about.
Do you think there's any risk to the president sounding like he's dismissing that concern when he has that kind of reaction to a question?
I don't know, guys. The Tucker Carlson Putin interview is 2 hours long. It was me interrupting it every 5 seconds to talk about what I think they're really talking about. You're looking at like a 4 or 5 hour long thing. I don't know if we're going to do that.
Look, the president is going to obviously speak for himself and lay out what he thinks is important to talk about as it relates to the American people.
Yay! We're back. Sorry about that. All right, let's finish this up.
And I talked about this almost starting this the briefing here, is what people really care about when they are sitting around their kitchen table, and that matters. We believe that matters as well. Okay, Francesca.
Thanks, Karine. Picking up on Tyler's line of questioning, why wasn't there a 2-2 today with the German champion?
Look, we always find different ways to engage with the press when we do these types of bilats. There are many things that come into consideration, and with this trip there was no 2+2. You're going to see obviously there's going to be some of your colleagues going to be part of the pool spray in a couple of minutes, not too long from now, and so you'll have an opportunity to see the two of them. Look, every visit is different. And they're different for different reasons. It's not just us. We have conversations with other countries that the leader, obviously the leader of the team of the other countries.
I haven't watched it yet.
Not have a 2+2, but that's not always the case.
I was planning on doing that tonight.
When you made letter to the president's verbal flubs, had you been briefed on the special counsel report or seen it at all?
Nope, not at all. And what do you mean when I made light of the president's verbal flubs?
Well, you made some jokes in response to questions about the president confusing world leaders with deceased world leaders. And
I saw the highlights. That was one of the highlights I saw. Is that, Putin's ready to negotiate, but who with who? Exactly.
What I did was I tried to state very clearly that, and yes, I did it in a light way, because it does happen to many people, and I actually talked about one of your colleagues that I do it to all the time. And so, look, I just want to be very clear. This is a president that is very much focused on the American people. He is very much focused on making sure what he was elected to do gets done. With the promises that he's made to communities across the country gets kept. So I just want to make sure that is made also very clear.
And finally, in response to the special counsel report, one of the president's Republican presidential rivals, Nikki Haley, has called for a mental competency test for the president. Is that something that the White House is actively...
What? They told you to take a cocaine test like you was out here on drugs. What are you, a junkie?
considering as a way to try and put to rest some of these allegations about his memory lapses?
I mean, look, I'm not a medical doctor, so certainly I'm not going to stand here and make or anything of that nature.
Doctor, you're not
what I can say is that,
secretary,
and I remember talking
you're not a good speaker.
All
you are is a pretty
I remember
face,
talking
honey.
to the president's doctor last year when I was asked about a cognitive test when the president's physical came out, and he said to me, and I'm paraphrasing because this was over a year ago at this point, that because of the president's actions every day, what he deals with world leaders, the domestic issues that he has to deal with, he believes that shows, right? That shows that the president is very much active and understands what's going on, right? And didn't believe that a test like that was warranted because of just who he is as president of the United States and everything that he has to deal with. But again, I'm not a medical doctor. The president's going to continue to be obviously transparent when it comes to his physical. We were in the last 2 years. He'll have one this year, and when the time permits, obviously, or when the time comes, we'll certainly share that.
Thank you, Karine. Last night, soon after the president's remarks about Israel, the administration announced a national security memo that calls for the State Department to obtain weapons from the U.S. will use those weapons in accordance with the law of war. Jake Sullivan, Kirby, others have previously said that the U.S. already requires those assurances. So why did the administration feel the need to formalize that and ask for it in writing now?
So look, so this memorandum that you're speaking of, it emerged in part with our discussions with members of Congress, so this obviously memo came out yesterday, and so it's called the National Security Memorandum. It outlines the standards that countries must adhere, as you just laid out. But I also want to be clear: there are no new standards in this memo. We are not imposing new standards for military aid. That's not what is in this memo. Instead, we are spelling out publicly the existing standards by the international law, including the law of armed conflict. So we are also, one thing that we are doing is creating a new annual report to Congress that members have requested. This is in request because of the interest of transparency. So this is in line with conversations that we have with the congressional members as we try to really...
So we got transparent. See,
work together in a way that makes sense and moves the ball forward. But this is not new standards. This is something. These are things that already exist. To your point, that is now in writing, and then we did create a new annual report for more transparency.
If Israel doesn't sign off within the deadline of 45 days, because it is involved with active conflict.
Oh, you missed the show. You need to go back and watch this. Oh my God, you want to break your TV or your phone or whatever you watch it on. This has been a shit show, bro.
Will the U.S. aid be cut off immediately?
So what I can tell you is that we did brief the Israelis on this. They reiterated their willingness to provide these types of assurances, so those conversations are happening, and they obviously they reiterated their willingness for these assurances. Okay. One more. Okay.
Thank you, Karine. If the special counsel says President Biden...
Wow, Ducey gets the last question. Let's rewind. All right.
One more. Okay.
Thank you, Karine. If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
How can he be trusted with the nuclear codes if... I get that you're saying that nobody in the building would say that he's got an issue with his memory. But just a little part of what we get to see, he's made Mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake on camera this week.
Camera.
So I want to be very clear here. The reality is that report, that part of the report, does not live in reality. It just doesn't.
So the special counsel is lying about the president's memory.
It was gratuitous. You heard from Ian Sams, my colleague. It is unacceptable, and it does not live in reality.
Yeah, she
that
does,
is just the facts. And look, it is a closed case. That is what the special counsel said. And what matters here is that the president in the last 3 years has delivered on the economy, has delivered on health care.
Did you guys ever see Gremlins 2, the new batch? Doesn't she look like the female gremlin? I just realized that. She looks like the girl gremlin.
Has turned this country around after the last president left us with an economy that was in a tailspin. That's what we were dealing with. That's what we were dealing with. If you think about the world.
I think you should just change it to the word ice cream, because that's all the man can remember. Or little girl.
Leaders. World leaders and issues that have been going on in this country for the past 2 to 3 years. Not in this country, in the world, right? When you think about Ukraine, the president was able to bring together NATO allies. They have been the strongest than they've ever been, and make sure that we are providing what Ukraine, the brave people of Ukraine, need as they're fighting aggression, Putin's aggression. And that is what this president has been able to do. His experience as former senator, as former vice president, and now president, has gotten us to a place where we've been able to turn things around in a way that we meet the needs of the American people, whether it's domestic
elder
issues
abuse. I
or
agree.
national security.
I agree. And it's embarrassing to the country.
Issues, and that is what matters. That part of the report does not live in reality. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Fuck you, bitch. I hope you fucking choke on the carpet you munched tonight, you fucking underqualified diversity hire. They're not going to answer any more questions. They're not even going to answer those questions. They literally answered no questions. Yep, guys, so that's the best we're going to get out of the most diverse administration in the history of America. Wow. Does it go? I don't know. I don't know what the connection is, but we have the most diverse administration in America, and we have the most incompetent administration ever to exist in America. I don't know if those two things are related or not, but it is intriguing. Play this. Okay, let's see what you got. Reagan, here we go. Finally, a president that you can be proud of.
By its very existence and character, Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. Missed me.
Oh my God, that is awesome. Oh wait, you guys can't see it. My bad. Hold on. Goddamn, Reagan was the king, boy. Reagan was the king. He will always be my president.
By its very existence and character, Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and... Missed me.
That's what a great president looks like. God, don't you miss those days? Oh, man. God, don't you miss that guy? I do, man. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. Aww. I don't know what to say. Now I'm sad. because I miss Ronald Reagan. I miss having a president like that, man. God, we need Trump back. So bad. So bad. Calvin Coolidge? Are you joking? I don't think you're joking. Yeah, well, they're all good, but God, Reagan, man. He did it like no one else ever will. Trump is close. Trump is a close second. Not even really that close of a second. And then Obama, I guess, Obama was good. On stage, on TV, I'm saying. He was interesting to watch. That was his first speech after they shot him? That's amazing. Oh, he's great. Fucking Ronald Reagan was great. I miss the old bastard. I wish he could be reanimated and president again. God, that was awesome. Don't you guys miss him? I miss him. Yeah, guys. All right, real quick. We are, as you know, YouTube hates this channel, and they took away all my big channel, and they take away all my viewers, and they hate me. So if you want to support the channel, there's only really a couple ways you can do it, but that's the best way. I just dropped that in the chat so you guys could support the channel if that's something you want to do. That would be awesome. What are you saying, Steve? Not joking. Read about. Okay, I will. I will learn a little bit about Calvin Coolidge. If you think he was that badass, who am I to say? He was president during the Depression, right? Like, I would say after Hoover, right? Between Hoover and Roosevelt. Yeah, that's what I think. Okay, well, it looks like my part just came in the mail. I'm very excited. I'm almost 100% positive I have the right one, because they only make 3 different ones, and I have two of the wrong ones. So this has to be the right one. Of course, the one that I need is the most expensive one that they make. So yeah, that's horrible. All right, yeah. So I am going to go and hopefully put my brakes on, and that will be awesome. I'm going to have to bleed the line, but yeah, that shouldn't be too hard. I mean, probably. I don't know what I'm doing. So it might take me about 4 weeks to get that done. Oh, what a good one, Joe. Yeah, unfortunately, your blue wrenches won't fix my car. I wish they would. All right, well, that's going to be it for the show. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Remember, we go live with all kinds of content whenever I want, and that's pretty fucking awesome. Thank you guys all.